Welcome to Season 4 of the Lehigh Valley Arts Podcast, where we explore the local arts culture and community in the Lehigh Valley.
We'll be doing this through conversations with individual artists, administrators, musicians, poets, actors, and arts and cultural organizations. We'll discuss all types of mediums with the goal of enriching local arts culture. Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Lehigh Valley Arts Podcast. I'm Ben, and this week I am super excited to say that all three of us as hosts are in the room together.
Yay!
This doesn't happen often anymore.
It
I mean, like, we're all
really
here
doesn't.
in some capacity usually, but like usually one of us is like working and one of us is like catching up on stuff. So
Yeah.
this is good.
Yeah.
We're getting good at
Woohoo.
being organized,
We
kind of.
are. We're getting stuff together. Super excited.
Yeah.
So what have you guys been up to recently?
I'd like to say that, like, I truly have worked so hard this autumnal season to prioritize doing fall things because it is my favorite season. And like, I know everyone says that, but like, truly I am obsessed and it makes me feel mentally well when it's fall. So I've been like very dedicated to setting aside my weekends for that, which has been fun.
That's awesome.
So the work-life balance has been good recently. My partner and I, we've been going to the drive-in a lot, which has been super fun. We went for Chainsaw Weekend. We didn't go for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but we did go for the Evil Dead triple feature, which is the first time I've seen all three of them.
That's nice.
That was really fun. He had like a whole costume. There was like probably 30 people dressed up that were there at the drive-in that night. So it was really super fun. We had such a good time. But the Mahoning is just so awesome. If you haven't been there, like, definitely. I know you guys have been there before, right?
Yeah, we've been there
But
before.
if you're listening and you haven't, definitely check it out. It's up in Lehigh. It's an awesome drive-in movie theater. It's outdoors, obviously.
Yeah.
Really fair ticket prices. They always have great food, great snacks, great merchandise stuff for the movies. The films, and a lot of stuff there is shown is 35 millimeter. So like,
Yeah.
it's really super classic, super fun. But yeah, we have such a good time like going up there, and it's part of my summer fall routine now. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
There's a lot of good drive-ins. Like, we featured Shankweiler's drive-in here
Yeah.
Yeah.
on the show a couple months ago, years ago.
Yeah.
I have no sense of
No,
time.
there's no time in it, but it's time.
In the past.
Becky's is pretty close
driving.
by
Yeah.
too.
That's
So
that's a classic.
yeah.
And Shankweiler's has been programming a lot of stuff that's not all just movies. And it's
Yeah.
been really cool to see how they're using their space
Yeah.
and engaging with the community.
Yeah, I love this like drive-in revival thing. Like, I know
Oh, yeah.
we've always gone, like, my mom used to take us when we were kids to Shankweiler's a lot, but it's not something that I know you guys really enjoy it too. And didn't you guys have like your first date at
We
We
did.
did. We had
Yeah.
Becky's?
Yeah, we had
Not
that
the
Becky's.
Becky's, but yeah. we
But
had
yeah,
first date
like,
there.
I think there's like, I love that all these drive-ins have all these like continuously cool programmings, and it's not something like, we live in an area where there's three, which is cool.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
that
think
is rare.
many exist anymore.
Yeah.
That's true.
Super fun. Yeah. What have you guys been up to?
So this weekend was really fun. We were able to go to the Art in the Park, which is multiple artists that come together and are able to display their artwork, sell their artwork, and talk to other local artists, get to know artists, and then the people in the community can come in and get to know them as well. It was a free event, which is wonderful for anybody in the local community to come. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to just be outside in the beautiful weather and enjoy walking around, seeing the art, and kind of coming and going as you please. And this year, it's actually really neat because Elise and her mom were also there.
That was my first time vending at Art in the Park with my mom, which was super fun. We always say that like the folks that run Art in the Park must make a deal with the devil because the weather is always like
Oh, yeah.
insanely beautiful.
It was
And like,
really
it was
nice.
such a nice day just to like sit outside and hang out. And you guys brought the dog, and
Yeah.
Yes.
it was good.
Oh, yeah. It was a good day. It was a good
Yeah.
day.
We brought the dog then, and we
Yes.
have the dog now.
Yeah, he's
Our
in here.
dog, his name is Nook. He's actually sitting in the studio with us right now as we record.
Yes, he's sleeping though, so you can't hear him
Yeah,
breathing.
he's asleep.
He's being
He's a
good.
heavy breather.
If you were awake, you'd hear him breathing very heavily.
Yeah.
And that was
Yeah.
that was like our back-to-back day too, because you guys left Art in the Park and then I met up with you later.
And we went to
For what was that for?
the
We went
food
to
truck show.
Yes.
We went to the food truck show.
Yeah,
that
was
fun.
That was super cool. They played their new album front to back, which was awesome.
It was very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a full day.
Yeah.
It was a full day.
And that's Food Truck's new album, Pure Gold. And I'll give a shout out to Abby Roscoe, who painted their new album cover.
Yeah.
She killed it.
Woohoo.
They killed it. Everybody killed it.
But yeah, there's just like so much good stuff coming up in Lehigh Valley this season. And we each kind of picked like a few things that we wanted to feature that we thought would be fun. Liz, do you want to kick it off?
I can. Yes, I can. So we have the PA Playhouse is in search of directors for their 2025 season. So the applications are due by October 7th. And you must include your letter of intent, vision for show, 3 references, and directing resume. And then you can submit your application to directors@paplayhouse.org.
PA Playhouse is right here on Illicks Mill Road in Bethlehem. They have a super cool season coming up. You can find out more information at paplayhouse.org. Their local nonprofit theater, community theater. They've got some cool stuff coming up. We all went and saw a show there, didn't we? Like a couple.
We did. We went and saw Sweeney Todd.
Yeah, that was last year. That was so fun.
fun.
They got some good spooky season stuff
They
going
do.
Oh,
They
yeah.
do.
and they're really good about posting it on Instagram, which is where I find all of the things I go to.
Yes.
So,
Same.
so give them a follow.
Coming up this weekend is Cocktails and Collecting, who once again on Sunday from 11 to 3 are going to have an art fair for all with free admission and access to all 24 of the Cocktails and Collecting artists. DJ Brad Scott's going to be rocking the turntables again this year, and they're going to have a bunch of other stuff going on as well. So if you have a chance, make sure you can go on out to that. We've got a couple podcast alumni that are going to be there presenting as well, including Michael Freeman, Marie-Jean Haba, Ann Lalick, Abby Roscoe, and Anthony Smith.
Also coming up this weekend, actually starting this Wednesday, October 2nd, is Touchstone Theater's 2024 Festival Unbound. They have so many cool events and programs coming up. It's 12 events over the course of 4 or 5 days. It's October 2nd through October 6th. 5 days, 12 events, 1 community. I'm personally super excited. They have Kinetic Light coming to Bethlehem as part of Festival Unbound. They'll be performing at Zollner Arts Center. Kinetic Light is an internationally recognized disability arts ensemble, and they're just an incredible performance group. So definitely check out all of the events that Touchstone has going on with Festival Unbound this week. You can find out more information at touchstone.org.
And we've been making a habit of going to Festival Unbound for the past few years.
Yeah.
And was it that same group that they played a documentary about a few years ago?
Yes, it was. That was probably about 2 years ago. So it seems like it's come full circle. So it's really great that Kinetic Light is coming into the Lehigh Valley now. They're actually going to have 2 dance workshops this week, as well as there's a training that's being offered to some local arts administrators on like becoming more disability friendly as arts organizations. That's coming up this week too. So I'm super excited because I'm going to attend that. But come check out the performance for sure.
Yeah.
It's on Saturday, October 5th.
Awesome. Well, this week we have a really exciting interview lined up with Oliver Reilly and Becca Maye of the Soft Guts Collective. So Elizabeth, I'm going to have you read their bios before Elise jumps into their interview.
Oliver Reilly and Becca Maye started Soft Gut Collective in 2019 with their friend Lee Nobody. The trio strives to create safe spaces and uplift marginalized identities. Their mission is to host events that prioritize and uplift bands, musicians that are women, BIPOC, LGBTQ+, people with disabilities, and other marginalized identities. Reilly and Maye are also multi-talented musicians and members of various music groups in the Lehigh Valley.
Oliver, Becca, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Soft Guts Collective has been on my personal interview list for quite a few years as we've been putting together this podcast. And I wonder if one of you would just speak a little bit to what is it and what do you do? And is it something mysterious or is it something that is big and bold and proud and out there in the world?
Yeah, so Soft Guts started with myself, Becca, and Lee. We were trying to put together shows that, were more reflective of like various identities, because we had, I think it was just casual conversation, and we were kind of talking about how, there's so many shows that it's just everybody just looks the same, and wanting to change that. And especially, I think, like seeing other communities like in Philadelphia and New York and other cities that do have more diversity in their music scenes. We just, wanted to make that happen here in Lehigh Valley.
I kind of came from like the Kutztown area where everything was very much the same. And then coming to Lehigh Valley, I got involved with Lehigh Valley Girls Rock and met Oliver through that organization. And like Oliver said, we would go to shows and just kind of feel like, I don't really belong here. I don't quite fit in. I don't feel like I see myself in the artists. So, we like to not complain. We like to commiserate. Maybe that's the right word.
Yeah.
And, we kept kind of saying like, man, I wish we had this. I wish we had bands like Mannequin Pussy or Kississippi, the Hers Collective, bands like that. So like, why not just try to create something special and different and use our voices to uplift other people who might be nervous, might be scared, might have never played a show before in their lives. So we try the best we can to uplift other people's voices.
That's awesome. I love, like, personally, I feel very like passionate about that specifically. And I think that's something we've always kind of tried to bake into the podcast and kind of the gallery space we have here at the studio is like, it's hard to find support as artists or musicians. Like once you're out of school, once you're like past that paid professional development kind of like world of stuff, but it's hard to find like people to work with or people like mentors almost, I think is like such a difficult thing to find. So I think it's really cool that you like do this work, and it's really important because I don't think that there in a lot of communities is anything like that exists, especially for artists of all mediums.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we've both played in bands and been on the other side of like organizing a show, like being the artist that shows up and someone is like, "Oh, whose partner are you?" Or like, "Do you need help with that amp?" And it's like, I can do it myself. Like, I'm actually the singer of the band. I'm the writer in the band. Like, I'm here for a reason. I'm not just like someone's girlfriend.
Yeah. And I'm, for people listening, a masculine presenting person with a beard and this voice. And that doesn't always happen to me. I've observed Becca and I play in a band together. And so I've had that experience, like I've witnessed we're treated differently by the other bands sometimes by, the person putting on the show. I mean, I think, look, I will say, like, there are a lot of great people in the Lehigh Valley that are putting on shows and booking like a variety of bands. And, we just wanted to have more of that here.
Yeah, because the point is bringing that for everybody, not just us, not just the music that we like or, the artists that we like. It's important that if you're booking shows, whether it's in Lehigh Valley, whether it's in New York City or LA, wherever, it's important to make sure the lineup is diverse or just not 20 straight white men, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
And, people have been booking shows like that forever.
Right.
And I think it's very important to both of us that we are trying our best to use our voices to help other people and also maybe help other bookers in the area kind of like do this because you want to. Don't do this just because you're checking a box off a list of like, oh, there's the band with a woman in it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. We're good. We're set, guys. Like, that's just not. And yes, like Oliver said, thankfully, most of the people in the Lehigh Valley who are booking shows are awesome, I think.
Yeah. Can shout out like Fuzzy Cat and Tape Swap and
Chris Reject.
Yeah.
Always doing the good work. Chris Reject from LVAC, Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations.
Yeah. But like Becca said, I think, we just felt like this need to really prioritize a variety of voices. Like, so in our mission statement, we say that we prioritize bands or artists. It might be solo artists that are women, BIPOC, LGBTQ plus, people with disabilities, and so on, other marginalized identities. So, yeah, I think like there was a conscious decision, like we're going to prioritize these voices and make sure that, because I mean that's what music's about. Like, I mean there are instrumental artists out there, but we haven't had any. So it is, a way of giving folks a platform.
That's awesome. So I'm curious, like, it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts to the work that you're doing. But at the root of it, like, what do you feel like is the most important, or maybe even something that you're spending the most time on? Is it like checking out shows and connecting with other people? Is it just like creating networking opportunities for folks? Is it searching out people, searching out venues? Like, what do you feel like is like a good chunk of the work that you're doing?
I think we do a little bit of everything. We recently have been trying to find new places to put on shows because we love Sokals. Lit Coffee Shop has also been very welcoming and let us host shows there. But it would be nice to kind of branch out a little bit and see what else is out there, what other communities we can reach.
Yeah, so that's been something that we've been looking into like recently, because I mean, I myself, like, I drink, but that doesn't mean everybody does. And I think for our mission especially, like, we want to be inclusive and try to think about like who's being left out. And it might mean that one show is in a venue where alcohol is served and one is in a coffee shop. And we try for the most part for our venues to be like wheelchair accessible. Some aren't, but we are aiming for, to, like, as Becca said, to like branch out and to have more accessibility in our venues and in the shows we're putting on.
That's a hard thing with like smaller. So I'm a Sokals frequenter and every other dirty little Lehigh Valley venue frequenter.
I do, yes.
And it's like I drink but I have like lung issues. So like every time there's a show at a bar with like smoking, I'm always like, all right, I gotta weigh like, can I handle that this week, or is that an issue for me? And I think there's a lot of places like that where maybe there are stairs, or maybe it's in like the back nook of whatever, and it's not particularly accessible or comfortable. And I think like doing this work is so important because I think it places some of the like pressure on maybe bigger venues or other venues that have more space or more to work with, and say like, hey, like there's some great local stuff going on here. Like you should be taking advantage of all these cool local diverse bands that represent all of the communities that live here. And I think the work that you're doing is so important and cool. Yeah.
I think something else I feel very passionate about us as an organization is trying to find newer bands or like younger musicians and artists too, to give them a chance to get their voices out there, because it's scary. It can be so scary to be like, I'm creating this thing. That's something that's very personal. And it can be scary to kind of break out of your shell and perform, or just even maybe come to a show. That can be scary, as we both struggle with anxiety, and going to a show by yourself can be really scary. And I hope that we can create a space where everybody feels like they're friends and welcome. And I love that we try to find artists that maybe never played a show before or only ever played a cover show, and really creating that space to curate that like fresh and new feeling in a show.
Yeah. And I know, in inviting bands and artists that are trans, I've had people say like, thank you so much, because I don't usually feel safe playing shows, so I don't do it very often. But like knowing what you do and what your mission is, like, and that you have gender neutral restrooms like at all your shows, like that's, that makes me feel like comfortable. So that was really cool to hear, like that. Okay, there are people who don't usually feel like they can do this, but because we specifically are saying this is what we prioritize. And for the most part, I mean, we don't control who comes to our events, but we've had some great crowds that are really respectful and kind to each other. And it might sound corny when I say it at the show, but I am always, all three of us, but like, I know I'm always like making a point to like remind people, like, be nice to each other. Like, this is our community, so we want everybody to feel safe. And I'm sure it sounds corny in the moment, but like it's important.
Yeah, that's such a weird unspoken thing everywhere, that like this concept of that in a lot of other countries there's this idea of like a third place, or like a space where people can just exist without having to spend money or feeling like capitalistic pressure, or just like a space to relax and enjoy something. And I think that live music is like such a good avenue for that. And it is intimidating, like if you've never been somewhere, to go to a show and check it out and just like enjoy yourself. But I love this kind of like, how do you structure that into the show? Is it like something that you say at the beginning, or is it something that's like on printed materials that you hand out, or like how does some of these kind of like, I guess, community norms like fit into the events that you're throwing?
I will say for some of our smaller events, we don't always do this, but for larger events, we will. We're very. Or even though we might feel disorganized, we are very organized people.
Yes, you don't seem disorganized.
We love to organize.
So we will have lots of Google Docs, and we do usually have a script.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean we follow it exactly. It's more just like, okay, like let's make sure these are the things we want to touch on, and we'll have like roles of, okay, after this band, I'm gonna go up. After this band, Lee's going to go up. After this band, Becca's going to go up. I know Lee is pretty comfortable with like public speaking. Becca and I do not like it.
No. Even with the script in front of me, it's like all of a sudden every word is jumbled and I just freak out and panic and then say stupid things. But
relatable.
Well, I don't think you say stupid things.
Thank you. That's very nice.
But I think it eases some of that anxiety too, to have that. And also because we want to acknowledge certain people that maybe helped put on the show, or like our volunteers. And so that is a helpful reminder. So that's one of the things that we do. We also sometimes will have signs up, not to like be nice to each other, although not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
I actually like that. So you might see that in the future.
You could have like materials so people could make their own. Be nice to each other.
I love this.
Yes.
Little craft night. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, that's kind of where we got the name Soft Guts. It's like, it's okay to be nice, and it's okay to care about other people. And like, that doesn't make you weak or like a nerd or whatever. Like, being nice is okay. And like, being a compassionate person isn't a sign of weakness. And creating the safe space and welcoming people into that with an open heart is like cool. I think that's cool. Like, I love going somewhere and the person working the door says, "Hey, how's it going tonight? Like, thanks for coming out to the show. You know, this is our raffle basket and you can get your drinks over from Maggie at the bar," instead of someone just stamping your hand, taking your money, and like that's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like it a little bit goes a long way, and to just that's the point of being in a community.
Yeah,
is to bring people together and make people feel good and happy when they're together, and like I think that's cool. I think being nice is cool.
Yeah, I love our name. Obviously, I mean, it sounds so.
We love it.
We love our name. But for the concept, but also as like a word nerd, like that juxtaposition of like soft, but then like guts, like it takes guts. Yeah, I just love those two words together, and it's sort of the way it happened was kind of random. I think we were just like throwing out random words, and then we were like, what about this? Like, what about this together?
And it felt right as soon as we said it. It was like soft guts. Huh. Soft guts. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. And I'm curious because I hear this word defined differently or like answered differently, but including the word collective, like in your, I don't know how to define, I say organization, group, team, like whatever, like what does that mean? And like, why did you choose that word as like part of the title?
I think the hope is that it'll be bigger than myself, Oliver, and Lee. And it would be amazing to have different people in the community, maybe booking shows under like the Soft Guts umbrella, or it turns into something more with visual art or spoken word or zines. Like, I just want it to be anything and everything.
Yeah.
And just, I want it to feel like a collective, like it's everyone's working together and it's like good and feels good for everyone, and people are comfortable expressing themselves if there's an issue or, you know, something went wrong or something like that. We're able to talk about it and discuss it in a way that's mature, and we can address it and move forward instead of like being stuck on that.
The outside the arts community looking in, like I think that word collective is kind of like, I've heard it described as like that's hippy dippy nonsense or like what I like that kind of idea, but like from inside the arts community I hear that word and I think of like communal support or like I don't know, it's like a comforting word to me, and I appreciate that it's like integral to this idea, even if it's right now it's this group of people, like that the future of this could be many more people working together to do all of these things.
Yay.
And I'm like,
Yeah, and I will say, okay, so Soft Guts started in the spring of 2019, and then maybe our first show was in the summer. But not too long after that is when we were introduced to COVID. And so really we were like on a hiatus for a long time. I think our first show in this, new COVID world was
2023.
Winter of 2023 was our first time putting on an event. And we haven't done a ton since then. So it kind of felt like we got started and then the brakes were put on. And then we've been slowly like getting our footing. And I think it's just like Becca got married last year. I had stuff going on. Lee has stuff going on. And so I'm really excited that we're starting to meet more regularly to talk about things because, like, yeah, what is, like, we had a vision in 2019.
What is it now?
What is our vision now? What are we trying to, do going forward? And I know that we have talked about that a little bit, but I think that there's so many possibilities for, like, who's going to be involved, like what, and we haven't figured it all out. And we're still trying to put on shows while we're figuring it out. But I know that that's kind of at least personally, like a priority for me is like, let's figure out some of our internal stuff and like how we're going to do things going forward.
Also realizing that the three of us work very well together, but this isn't a full-time job for us. This is extracurricular. And it's trying to balance that too, of life stuff versus work stuff versus personal stuff versus this like thing we're all really passionate about. And I love that I don't love that we had to pump the brakes on stuff. Like, obviously, I don't love that the world fell apart, but it was nice to have a minute to think about what we want and to be very intentional about how we're moving forward and what shows we're putting on, what we want to do. And we don't have to rush back into it. We don't have to dive right into things again, and just kind of finding the right balance for all three of us and whoever else will be involved at some point. We're all very aware that not all of us can commit all of the time.
Yeah.
That's impossible to do.
I think it like took a while for us to realize that.
Yes.
Even though, when in winter of 2023, when we had our first like show, Becca and I were both sick. Like, I had COVID.
We had to miss
else.
it. I had a double ear infection.
And
Sick.
Literally
so
sick.
Yeah.
we do have folks that we ask to help out.
Yeah.
And so thankfully, like, Lee didn't have to do it alone. But there was another time recently where we set a date for a show, and I think we had already asked bands, and then I realized, oh, I have something on that. I don't know why. I looked at the calendar, didn't see it. But I had a very important, I had like my best friend's wedding that day. And so Becca said, Lee, we knew already wasn't going to be able to make it. Becca was like, I think I can just manage this on my own, because it was a smaller show, smaller in terms of like the capacity of the venue and whatnot. And it made me think, oh, maybe this is like a way for this to be sustainable, like involving more people. And then also, we don't all always have to be there.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys live in this weird parallel universe to Ben and Elizabeth and I, where like we kind of started the podcast, and the idea of it was in like 2019. And we were like, sure, we're going to do this. Like, let's talk about it. Let's keep talking about it. And then Liz and Ben got married in 2020, and we were going like really strong for like a year or a season or however we want to phrase it. And then like, I think last year, like everything just kind of fell to shit. Like, it didn't fall to shit, but like it was really hard to learn how to balance like full-time. Like, when we started, some of us were working part-time, some of us were working full-time, and it's changed twice over since then. But like, it is a really difficult thing to like figure out how to balance like work and personal life and like your own artistic practice and like this passion project idea. Like, I don't know, like, what, this is like a silly, cheesy question, but like, what drives you to like keep doing the passion project part? Because like, it's hard. It's really hard to like fit that into everything else.
I love music. I love live music. I love finding new artists. I love giving people the chance to perform for the first time or for the first time in a few years. The pandemic really impacted everyone a whole lot.
You don't say.
Yeah, I don't know if you were there for it, but
I actually mentally checked out.
Yeah, I know. I think we all did. It's important to hold on to those passion projects and have that as like something special that like keeps your heart full. But it's also okay to realize that you don't have to create all the time. Like, we don't have to put on a show every month or every 2 weeks. Like, that would be freaking cool if we did. But realistically, that's not possible. And I think when we do have our events, they are very special. And we try to just make it really fun. Like, when we have our bigger shows, we've had DJs like play songs between sets and kind of dance party stuff. And our smaller shows, we have it lit so people can drink their tea and their coffee. And, I know, in like long before I even lived in the Lehigh Valley, someone did do goth prom and people loved it. And people do goth proms like all over the country. And it's fun to dress up. It's fun to like get all fancy and kind of step outside of yourself for a night. And I just love seeing people happy and like safe and warm in this like little weird bubble of like weirdness and glitter and fog and music. Like
I remember when we put on our first big event, I think I probably said to Becca or Lee or maybe both of you, I don't know most of the people here. And I was like very surprised by that because I do think, you know, I don't want to speak for Becca and Lee, but like we are part of sort of I don't know, a scene like that. We see a lot of the same people. We know a lot of the, you know, same bands and whatnot. And I was like, I don't know most of the people here. I don't know where they came from, but this is awesome. And, you know, things that we had talked about, like being afraid of, because, even if you are behind the scenes, like there is still a lot of pressure. Like you want things to go well. You don't, you know, you want the bands to have a good time. You want the people to have a good time. You want everybody to feel safe. And also, like, you know, you want it to go smoothly. And all the things that we were afraid of, like, everything went fine. And not to say that every show, everything has gone perfectly, but it was nice for that big first event. And I think we had a photographer there, and like seeing the photos afterwards too, and seeing everybody have a great time. And I remember I have like this very, maybe there's a video of it, but I have this memory of folks like hitting a balloon. Like, I'm sure we've all been at like the show or the party where it's like, don't let the balloon hit the ground. And it was like some younger folks that I think like were starting it, but I was like, this is fun. I haven't been at a show where this has happened in a long time, and I really liked that memory of like seeing everybody joyful. And you know, it is like something I did when I was younger, but I'm not that old, number one. And also, like, you know, you can enjoy yourself anytime and be silly. And yeah, I really liked that happened at that particular show. One of our smaller shows, we did like a storytelling event where folks talked about like the meaning behind their songs, or like told a story about why they wrote it. And like that was just so special and intimate too. And so we don't always do large events. We don't always do themed events like the storytelling, but there is something like special and intimate about every event, whether it's large or smaller.
Cool. So are you both from the Lehigh Valley area? I know you mentioned before maybe some connection to Kutztown, but is this home for both of you or somewhere that you've lived for a while?
I grew up in New Jersey. Going to college in Pennsylvania from New Jersey was very much like, oh, Jersey Shore, you know, like. And I love where I grew up. I grew up in Mays Landing, small little town in South Jersey. But I was definitely ready to get out when I could, when I graduated high school. And I went to Westchester for one semester. Was not for me. And then I went to Kutztown, graduated in 2010, and then stayed there for all the wrong reasons, but found a lot of amazing friends, and then moved to Bethlehem for work in 2015. So I'm still fairly new to the Lehigh Valley.
That's like almost a solid 10 years.
Well, when you put it that way, wow, okay. Thanks for bringing that up. Just kidding.
Well, I think like, I don't know. I think this is such a, transient is like not quite the right word, but like I think this is an area people move in and out of a lot, and like that's solid. Like that's awesome.
I'll take it. Cool.
I also sometimes feel like, oh, I just moved here, and then I think I moved here in 2016. And I'm like, that was actually like 8 years ago. Wow. I feel like I'll say a few years ago. More than a few now, but I grew up in East Stroudsburg, so not too far from here. And I would come to shows actually in the Lehigh Valley when I was in high school, and I had friends that were in bands and they played like at the Pirates Cove, which maybe you've heard of, but it was a great basement space for shows. And there were other shows that were being put on in this area. So yeah, so I had that connection to it, but I lived in Philadelphia after high school. I didn't come here. And there was a great, I especially lived in West Philly my last few years, and there was a great like community there, like a great queer community. And when I decided to move to Lehigh Valley for a relationship, I was like, oh, like, is that, what's it going to be like there? And surprisingly, it's been awesome. But yeah, so I've been here for 8 years now, and have a house here. Like, I'm, going to be here for a while.
In terms of like building out something like Soft Guts Collective, or even having your own bands, like, do you feel like there's good space for that in the Valley? Or like, is that something that moving here, it was easy to find connections, or did you kind of have to dig around a little bit?
I feel very lucky that I met one of the co-founders of Lehigh Valley Girls Rock, Felicia. We worked together at Hello Burrito. Moment of silence for Hello Burrito. So I feel very lucky that I met Felicia, and she kind of brought me into this little world of Lehigh Valley Girls Rock. So yeah, I guess, I just feel really lucky that I was able to find that pretty immediately, which I know is not the case for everybody. And definitely people move here and struggle for sure to find that. And I hope that we can help people like find their people.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it was kind of meant to be that, like, that was something that you needed to support, like making whatever you wanted to work living here. And that's really awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I will say, like, if 10 years ago I could see who I am today, I'd be like, I mean, this isn't like to toot my own horn, but like, I'm just doing a lot of the things that I always thought were really cool, but didn't think that I could do. And when I moved here, it was a good year before. I lived in Easton, so I did feel a little bit further away from a lot of the stuff that was happening. But I also didn't really know anybody here. So I'm not sure how I got introduced to Lehigh Valley Girls Rock exactly. Like, I think I used to hang out at Coffee House Without Limits, and probably met folks there, and then was asked to volunteer. So I met a lot of, like, I feel like that was like my gateway into the music scene in the Lehigh Valley. And yeah, and that's how Becca and I met, even though we had some mutual connections. I feel like that's where we probably saw each other and started chatting. And one of the other volunteers with Lehigh Valley Girls Rock wanted to start a band. And that's another way that we became closer, is that she was like, oh yeah, and I think, Becca, I don't know if you know Becca, but she plays guitar, and like, she was talking about maybe wanting to do something. And then Becca was like, and then, my friend Jen also, like, she plays bass. So I played guitar and drums, and I was like, oh, okay, Molly's going to play drums. I will play guitar. Like, I just want to play music with people, and wasn't sure where it was going to go. But then we got together, and we've been a band since spring of 2018, I think. Yeah.
And it was very nice because we were all like a little nervous about starting a band, and just like scared. It's scary to play music with people, even people you know and love. And I think we've grown so much, like, musically over these years too, that it's just, looking back on those first few practices, it was like we were all so timid and scared, but like we created that little space for ourselves that we could, we used to start practice at 7, and then it would be like midnight, and it's like, wow, I guess we should probably wrap it up for the night. Like, we would just spend like hours making music and talking and getting to know each other, and it was very special.
Being introduced to Lehigh Valley Girls Rock, and then being in a band in Lehigh Valley, like, that was like integral to Soft Guts starting too. Like, because I think, at least for me, like I was in a band in high school. We just played in my friend's garage. We never played a show.
Same, yeah.
And then I was in a band. I played drums in a band in college, like briefly, and we did play some shows, but it was mostly like house and basement shows. And so when Ghostly formed, it was like, oh, and we're playing a show. Like, I didn't think I could do this. And then it was like, oh, I could book a show now that I like have played played some shows, and I see how things work. Which, sometimes things just seem like harder than they actually are until you decide you're going to do them.
Yeah.
That like artist to arts administrator pipeline is like so weird, because I think that's often how it is, where people that make art or make music or whatever medium you work in, like, it's exactly that. There's like this weird knowledge barrier of like, oh, you couldn't do this. Like, you didn't know how to do it. You didn't know how to book a show or put together an art gallery exhibition. And like, really, it's like, oh, actually, if you just like look at it from that lens, like you could do that. Like, you could put it together. And not to say that there's not a lot of work or knowledge that goes into it, but like there is some like weird knowledge barrier between those two things that I just hate. Like, it's like, what if we all just like told each other how stuff worked and like helped each other figure it out? That would be so weird.
Yeah, or like if you have a question, like be comfortable to ask someone.
Yeah. I feel like that's been, I don't want to speak for Becca and Lee, but like, at least I think it's true for most of us that like we've all done a lot of things over the last few years that we didn't think that we could do. But when we actually decided we were going to try to do it, it's like, oh, okay, I can do this thing. And also I can do this thing. And now maybe I can do this thing. And I think that that's been a really cool experience.
And now we're on a freaking podcast.
Yeah.
Talk about not expecting, doing new things that we're scared of.
Well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your band, and maybe even specifically, like, how did you both get into playing music, and like what was maybe the inspiration or like the motivation behind learning to play an instrument? Because I think it's different for everybody.
So I was very into like the Riot Girl scene when I was in middle school / high school. And I think I just like had this dream of being like, I just thought it was so cool and badass, and like I wanted to be in a band. And I had a job in high school where I saved up my money and bought myself, a guitar, and then bought some drums. And I did have like 2 lessons on drums, never had a guitar lesson. And yeah, I just played. I just kind of figured it out. And I think I have insecurity sometimes, especially when it comes to guitar. Becca knows that I'm like, I suck at guitar, or like I don't know how to do things. I don't know the proper way. Oh, I couldn't teach somebody how to play guitar or drums because, I just taught myself. But I'm trying to, not have that imposter syndrome. Like I'm doing the thing, I'm playing. And that's all, You
are a guitar player.
Right? And back, when the Riot Girl scene was like super active and alive, and not to say it isn't today, but it was definitely like there was a defining period. I think that like the philosophy was like, you can just pick up an instrument and play. I try to remind myself sometimes, like you don't have to be like a formally trained musician to make music.
Amen.
Yeah.
I don't, that's all.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like I'm on the other side of that. I grew up taking piano lessons and being in choir and doing drama club. I went to college for music performance, but I still felt very much like, oh, like, where do I fit in here? Like, I started kind of as like singer-songwriter. And then like in Kutztown, when I was living in Kutztown, I was in a bluegrass band. Like, you didn't know that about me.
I did not know that.
And just, it took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to be as a musician. And I think I'm still figuring it out. And I think that's part of like the cool part of being a musician is you can change anytime you want. You can shift, you can use a different guitar pedal and be really loud, or you can play your acoustic guitar and just like chill. Yes, it took me a long time to figure out the kind of musician I wanted to be and how I wanted to use my voice. And it wasn't until I moved to the Lehigh Valley that I really felt like, oh shit, like, I think this is what I was looking for. I think this is what feels right to me. And I remember going to an LVGR event. It's now called Get Loud Fest, but previously it was called Lady Fest. And it was a fundraiser show for Lehigh Valley Girls Rock with bands that had women, trans folks, non-binary folks. And I remember going there and just being like, holy shit, like, this is awesome. Like, all of these people in this room are here for like this awesome lineup of bands who, like, that's me. Like, I see myself up there. And it just felt so empowering of like people do want to hear what I have to say. And people want to find a shared experience with someone, and music is that for me. Like, that's how I can communicate to people. I'm not good at small talk. I'm not good at talking. I'm not, as I knock everything off the table. But when I'm writing a song, or whether it's with Ghostly or my other band, Small Mess, it's just nice to be able to like say whatever I want. And like, people are going to listen to it if they want to. But like, it's very powerful, and I'm very lucky that I was able to find that later in life. Like, in my 30s, I'm figuring this out, and it's like never too late to find your voice. It's never too late to change your mind. It's never too late to try something new, or, you know, reinvent yourself. You know, like, life is short, and why like waste it worrying about what everyone else thinks? Or like, why not just like play loud music and sing your heart out, or play music with your best friends? Like, that's so special. And I think we have something very special with Go Silly, even if it just stays in your basement, and maybe we'll release an album one day. Like, obviously I would love to tour and do all the things, but it just, working in a band is very special. And I feel very lucky that I'm able to do that in multiple realms of my life with multiple people I care about.
Yeah. I recently became part of, I mean, we just formed a new band called Sub Q, which is like a punk band. And we have 7 songs right now. So
they're awesome.
Wow.
It's a totally different vibe, and it's great, and I enjoy it. And I also enjoy Go Silly is a totally different process, and like, again, we have a Google Doc as a band. We actually just had a band meeting recently where we decided we were going to have a Google Drive like folder for everything. And
love
like,
the Google
being really
Drive. I know.
organized. And then and we have a lot of like time at practice, like especially at the start, where we just talk about our lives. Like we are all like, you know, kind of best friends, and so it's like, it's our opportunity. It's hard in your 30s. I feel like that's what, like, and I'm in my later 30s now, and I feel like over the last few years it's just gotten really hard to get together with people. And it's like, oh, maybe I see my best friend, like, you know, one of my best friends in Philadelphia, like once a month. We're trying to do once a month, and sometimes it's every other month, and it's like, we used to spend every day together. But, you know, you grow up and you have more responsibilities, and so it's really nice to have like kind of this built-in time band practice where we see each other.
Maybe you have to like make a band or a podcast or something.
Yeah.
Like hang out with your friends.
I know.
Right? And so we do a lot of catching up. The other band, like, we are friends too. They're great people, but we're like kind of in and out. Like, let's get this done. Go Silly practice might be a few hours. Sub Q, you know, we're like an hour and a half. Like, go through, okay, and chat like in between. But it is like different processes, different ways of writing songs, and I love having those varied experiences. Yeah.
What kind of music do each of your bands make or write or cover or all of the things?
Small Mess is, we've been talking about like our genre catchphrase. And I think my husband, who I'm lucky enough to play music with in Small Mess, said, "Sad songs loud." And I was like, yeah, that does fit. Sad songs loud.
And Ghostly, I think years ago when we first formed, we're like, how would we, like, we were making our Instagram or our Facebook, and we're like, how do we describe ourselves? And I don't know who said it or how it came out. It might have been a collaboration. But what we came up with was Lehigh Valley best friend, soft, loud jams.
I saw that on your...
Yeah.
But that's what it is. Like, it's hard to put it into words, but like, that's exactly what it is.
The literalness of it is
Yes.
perfect.
Yep. So we actually, at our band meeting, I had asked, I was like, so I had to fill something out recently and describe our band, and I wasn't sure, like, should I just put best friend soft loud jams, or like, how would we? And we just decided in the end that no, that's how we describe ourselves, because that's what feels right.
And it is very collaborative. We really, like, maybe someone will come to practice with a part, but we really take the time to build the songs together and write the lyrics together. And, you know, we all have similar experiences in life, so it's easy to write those, like, nostalgic kind of, not sad, but not happy either. Just, I always feel very, like, nostalgic when we're playing and when we're writing together. But yeah, it is. It's soft, loud, best friend, Lehigh Valley jams.
Recently, so in October, we put Soft Guts put on a cover show. Someone reached out and asked, like, are you doing the cover show this year? And we're like, we don't do that. And then
Like
we're
the Halloween
the Halloween
cover show. It used to be at the Burners.
And
yeah.
we were kind of like, oh, I don't think anybody's doing that. We can do one. Sure, we can do one. And we had someone who committed but then couldn't do it. So we ghostly decided, okay, we can make this work, and we can, kind of fill in and be the, I don't know, I think we had five bands. And we covered Hole, and we switched things up. So usually I play guitar, I was on drums, and Molly, our drummer, was on vocals. And just like, we knew when we were going to do this, we're like, Molly, because we all saw her do karaoke without any alcohol, and she was amazing. And just, we're like, that's the kind of energy that, like, Courtney Love has. Like, we need that energy. So yeah, we switched things up, and then afterwards we wrote some new songs that were way different than our older songs, like more, I guess, grunge, a little bit of angst at times.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
A hint.
And we've all kind of said we love that, we having this experience of, like, covering Hole, like, we're like, maybe we should write more songs like this. Like, we really enjoyed that. And so I think that that's, a direction we're exploring, at least. And Sub Q, I think one of the members of the band, and I'm not naming names just because I don't have their consent to do so, but one of the members said garage punk. Like, we're a garage punk band. We play in my basement, so technically we're a basement punk band.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, and that's definitely different than what Ghostly has been doing, which typically we're like I said, we're exploring this new direction. But our songs have been our EP is called Tender Hearts, because it's very reflective of the kind of songs, like, and we are tender-hearted people in the band. And I was saying, like, that's like pre-COVID, Ghostly, and we've all changed over the last few years, and like
It's gotten a little heavier, a little louder, more feedback, more pedals.
I guess I'd really love to hear about maybe like some upcoming events that you're really excited about, or that you're putting together, or are potentially in the works, or even like use this space just to be like, hey, so and so, it would be so cool to work with you, and then we'll like just tag them like crazy. And,
we are planning another cover show around the same time. We did it Friday the 13th last year, and
October 13th.
and what specifically is a cover show for those listening?
Oh, for a cover show is when bands play the songs of other, usually like popular bands. So we had a theme, like a kind of creepy Halloween-y theme, and we're kind of keeping that for this year. And yeah, so that's one of the things. And we do usually, when we have larger, I call them events, like, because it's not just a show. Like, we will have other aspects of it that are, I guess, attractive to people. So in October, we had tarot readings at the events. We've had food vendors. We've had a DJ and done like a dance party type of thing. So we do try to think of like, what else can we do that's fun. And I know we have talked about, like, it's definitely sustainable for us to do some of these, like we don't always have to have a 200-person event. We can put on smaller shows. So I think that that's kind of like going to be we're going to chat more about like what our vision is and how things are going to go. But I think, maybe like 2 larger events a year, and then we'll just keep our smaller shows going. I might have mentioned this, I'm sure I have, but like I have this vision of, maybe I got this from probably from Josie and the Pussycats, which we might be covering a song from that soundtrack.
Maybe.
And like playing in a bowling alley, like having shows in like bowling alleys, roller rinks. Roller rink, is that what
Roller rink.
Skating rink?
Yeah. I think either one works.
Like, I think that would be just neat, like different venues.
Yeah, bringing another element to a show, I think, is really, really fun. And it keeps it exciting. And there are other events like that, Punk Rock Flea Market, the Let's Hang Out wrestling events, like that's freaking cool. And I think just having more events, like Oliver said, just elevate it a little bit to make it a little more special than just like standing in a room seeing 4 bands play, which is also awesome. Like that rules too. But I think, people want just a little more, and people want things to do, and it's hard enough leaving your house to like go to the grocery store. So why not just like make it a big fun party?
Yeah.
Like for local bands playing, or every now and then we'll have some out of town bands, like when it's more of an event, it gets more people in the door that maybe wouldn't have come out if it was just the lineup and that's it. So it gets more people to listen to the music, and I think that that's awesome. Yeah, I used to before I moved to the Lehigh Valley run like a poet. I have a background in writing, even though I don't do it anymore really, but I used to do like poetry readings in parks, different parks, and like sort of informal, like around the city. And that's not something I've mentioned to Soft Guts before, but like I could see us doing nicer weather, like let's just do some informal like outdoor shows.
That'd be so fun.
Those all are such like cool ideas, and I love that. I don't know. I'm definitely the type of person that my anxiety is too high when I go to shows. I'm like, I need like an additional activity.
Dance
Like,
a little bit between bands.
Yeah, like I love that. I love that idea. That's very cool. Well, if people want to find Soft Guts Collective, or if they want to find either of your multiple bands and projects, where can they find all of that information?
You can find Soft Guts on Instagram at Soft Guts Collective. We're also on Facebook, Small Mess. You can find us at Small Mess PA on Instagram, also on Facebook. Ghostly is at Ghostly Band. And both Small Mess and Ghostly are on Spotify and Bandcamp.
softgutscollective@gmail.com if you are a musician and you fit our mission and you want to play a show. Sometimes we just, book shows around who reaches out to us and is going to be in the area.
Oliver, Becca, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
For our opportunity of the week, join Soft Guts Collective at their 3rd annual Goth Prom. Friday, October 11th, doors open at 6:30 p.m. Music starts at 7 at National Sokals at 613 Hillside Avenue in Bethlehem, PA. Soft Guts invites you to come get spooky with them, dance your moody black heart out, and dress for the occasion, darling. Costumes are welcome. Cover is $10 to $20 on a sliding scale. No one will be turned away for lack of funds. A portion of the proceeds will be donated to a local nonprofit to be announced. Online ticket sales end Monday, October 7th at 11:59 p.m. This event has sold out in the past, so get yours now. For questions or accessibility accommodations, reach out to softgutscollective@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Lehigh Valley Arts Podcast. Don't forget to like the podcast, leave us a review, and follow us on both social media and streaming services at Lehigh Valley Arts Podcast.